everybody, Richard again here from Electric Classic Cars, and today's episode is all about a workshop walk around. Now, what is a workshop walk around? Well, it's kind of fairly obvious really. It's just a walk around of the workshop, updating you on some of the cars we've been working on, and also some of the new arrivals, like this gorgeous Jensen Interceptor. So let's start with this one. This is a Jensen Interceptor Mark III.
Looks like, yeah, Mark III.
Mark III, which is still got its engine in, because if you come over here, Tim, there's a
telltale sign.
There's a telltale sign because its soul has been leaking all over the floor. So yeah, this has its V8. That's a big one in this, isn't it? It's a 6 point something.
7 litre, I think.
7 litre.
Yeah.
So it's got a 7 litre V8 in the front here, and it kind of works. It's a little bit temperamental. We couldn't get it to tick over. Gorgeous car, very highly restored. Engine looks good, but obviously it's not behaving itself. So that's got to come out, and in there we're going to give it some justice, because that's an American V8, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, big American V8.
Big American V8, and we're going to put some big American muscle back in, so we're going to go with Tesla. And it's going to be a really interesting one, this, because we're actually going to put a Tesla drive unit in the front, but driving the prop shaft. So Tim's got a confused look on his face,
Yeah.
Not for the first time. So this is going to be the first time we've done that. So that's a Tesla drive unit up front, running a prop shaft. More on that to come. This
And of
will
course,
be
Jensen made in West Bromwich in the UK.
Will they?
Yeah, and they were the company that made body panels for Austin Healey.
Oh, that's right. That's why you know. The Austin Healey
and
leak.
for Volvo.
And for Volvo.
Yeah, P1800
Oh yeah, of course.
was made by Jensen, the body panels.
There you go. So there you go. Jensen Interceptor has arrived in the workshop, and it's just starting its journey. I do like the interior. I've always had a soft spot for these cars. I don't know why. Check out that interior. I mean, that is just... Oh, let's hold the door open. That is just a glorious interior. Look at all the switchgear and dials and like cream leather. That's just got the 70s written all over it, isn't it?
It's a classy motor, isn't it?
It is. I like it. So there you go. One Jensen Interceptor Mark III. So as I say, Tesla motor up front, batteries up front, and then at the iconic boot end, I mean, I say iconic because look, there's curved glass and the curved rear rump. I do like a big rear end, and this has got a big rear end. We'll have a battery pack in there somewhere as well, just to balance that weight out. But yeah, this is going to be a glorious car when it's finished. So from an English icon to an Italian icon, let's go this way around the workshop. So Testarossa, obviously there's a Testarossa build series that we're doing following the Testarossa to Teslarossa conversion process. So link up there to follow that if you've not been doing so already. And if you've not been following, you won't know. We've got 4 of these to do. There's one here, there's one over there, there's another one on its way to us very shortly, as soon as the customer sorts out his lift in his garage. First world problems, eh? So then we'll have that one to do, and there's another one. We're actually shipping a kit off to America now as well. So we've got the cradle in here. That cradle splits in 2, so it all bolts into the existing infrastructure of the car, into the engine mounts here, and that first bit of the cradle goes in, then the battery box goes in, then the motor gets attached to that bit of the cradle, then that goes in and attaches to the rest of it. Nice and simple. And then I do believe we're going to make a boot as well. So on this one, which I think this one is slightly ahead of the other one over there, this one the high voltage cables are run, and the guys are just starting to do the low voltage coolant pipes as well. So yeah, this one's cracking on. And looking over at the front, what else we got? Yeah, they're starting to get busy with things like the low voltage, where they're going to put things. I can see here, so they've got a number of relay and fuse holders going in there. I think underneath here, yep, so air conditioning is going in this area here, and then there's a radiator here. I'm not sure that, no, that radiator is not going there. That radiator is sitting in the vents, the iconic Testarossa vents. Where else would it sit? So that's that one. That's up to date on that one. Oh, you can just about see now the air conditioning compressor down here. The reason why we put it down here is because this thing's a little bit noisy when it's on full chat. So you always try to get an air conditioning compressor as far away from the passenger cell as possible, and obviously rubber mount it as well. So that's why that's down here. 12-volt batteries down here as well. But it's quite a clever little system because essentially it's only on full chat for a very short space of time once it gets you up to temperature, and then it kind of throttles back. So it's noisy for a little bit and then it quietens down. But as I say, further away from the passengers the better. So that's in there. Okay, next we'll keep it Italian and we'll keep it Fiat with a little Fiat 500 over here. Right, a little bit smaller than the other red Fiat over there is this Fiat, which is the Fiat 500, of which we have 3 in the workshop at the moment, all in different stages. This is actually finished, so this is just in test miles at the moment. So in here we've got a 15 kilowatt hour battery pack, 1 Tesla module up front, 2 in the rear, beautiful white interior. So yeah, totally practical white interior if you've got kids and a dog. But it's actually all right. It's very easily wipeable. So, but I do like the dashboards. Have a look at the dashboards on these. How simple is that dashboard? Why can't modern vehicles have a simple dashboard like that? That's what it should be like. So there we go. This one's finished. Just bar the testing. So if I open up the rear, you can see what a finished Fiat 500 conversion looks like. So there we go. 2 Tesla modules in there. You've got the electric high voltage box in there, controller there, motor underneath. And if you want to find out a little bit more about Fiat 500 conversions, click on the link above, and there's a video we've done all about Fiat 500 kits that we do, and a little bit more detail on the Fiat 500 conversions. Right, what's next on the list? Oh, bit more British muscle. It's not a Mustang. It is an Aston Martin V8. Now, V8 Vantage or V8? Was it, do you reckon?
It's V8, isn't it?
It's just a V8, I think, isn't it? So this is an Aston Martin V8, and ignore the wheels. These are just rollers before everybody goes, oh, the wheels are awful. They're just to move it around. So what have we done on this? I mean, obviously the battery box is in, but this is just a cover to go over it. Because the original Aston Martin engine bay had Aston Martin, I think it even had Aston Martin Lagonda, we'll have to check. But it definitely had Aston Martin or Aston Martin Lagonda on the top of the V8 sort of like heads, if you like. And what we're doing here with this battery box cover is kind of replicating that. Just roughly at the moment, a bit of aluminium. We're going to get a machinist to kind of make up a nice sort of like bit of script to match the original car. If I take this off, because it's only alley, it should be fairly light, he says. Oh, here we go. So there's the battery box. That's now in and pretty close to getting finished by the looks of it. So that's going to house most of the batteries. And obviously, again, it's mounted onto the original engine mount, so we don't drill or weld onto the original chassis or body. So essentially, that's just going onto the original mounts of the vehicle. You've got brake boosters and brake master cylinders either side here. So that's what these are here, and looks like the brake lines are all done as well, because this was a bare shell when it came in, so we've actually had to kind of start again on a lot of it. You've got a header tank over there by the looks of it. What else have the guys done? You can probably tell I've been away from the workshop for a few days, so I'm kind of catching up on things myself in this video. Power steering pumps in, so we've got a remote electric power steering pump down there as well. So that's very neatly put into position. This already has a Tesla Model 3 motor in the rear, and I think what we'll do a more detailed video of this car in a future episode, because it's worth a deeper look. I think that's it on this vehicle for now. Have they done anything in the rear? Oh, yep, you have battery box in the rear. So you got the battery box in position as well, and again off original mounting points there, and looks like the guys have just about started on another header tank down here. So one of the header tanks will be obviously for the battery coolant system, and the other header tank, which is just mocking up down here now, is going to be for the motor and inverter. So there we go, this is cracking on nicely. Next vehicle. Now we've covered Italy, we've covered Britain, and it's time to, let's discuss the Germans. We've got two Beetles here, and as always is the case, I leave the workshop for a few days. The car was working absolutely fine. I come to the workshop and it's in bits again. So I'm not sure why. I've been away for, I don't know, 4 days now, and when I drove this in after Goodwood Revival, this was working absolutely fine. But now, for some reason, the guys have decided to take the front battery box out and do some work on it. I'll find out probably tomorrow as to what's going on there. So this is a Baja, and this is fantastic fun to drive. I mean, it looks just awesome anyway, but I mean, this, we're going to definitely, I promise you, do a full episode on this, because this is hilarious fun. I drove it the other day and my cheeks were just like aching after about an hour. The smiles per mile on this is awesome. So in this we've got cowled modules, front and rear. Front battery box goes in there. Rear is behind the back seats. And in case you're wondering what's going on here, a Baja has like a snub nose to be able to get a really good entry angle, an exit angle as well, because the rear is chopped off, and that snub nose there is just being taken off, obviously, to get access to stuff. So have a look in the rear, because the way we've done the rear motor in this is awesome. So as I say, the rear on the Baja Beetle has been chopped off, just to give it that exit angle, so you can see there, I mean, you can literally just go up and down a wall if you wanted to. But yeah, look at the way we've done the motor mounts in this. I just love how we've, you know, designed something that's just, you know, it's on show, just like a Baja engine is. You can see everything, but, you know, a motor can be a fairly, you know, boring, innocuous thing. But I just like the way we've like highlighted this, you know, by painting it black and stainless steel button heads, and like make this cradle up here. It's brilliant. But we won't dwell on this because there's a full episode to come. So don't look at this. No, we'll look at the Beetle next door. Go on, away. Now here's an original VW Beetle, and this is an oval 1950s Beetle. And as you can see, the front has definitely not been chopped off on this. So you've still got a full body set, if you like, on this Beetle. But we're in the middle of doing something which is quite an interesting process. So if I explain, we are at the moment weighting the vehicle, because we want to find out, you know, how the suspension copes with a certain amount of batteries front and rear. And the way we do that, actually follow me this way, Tim, if you can, without tripping over cables. The way we do that is with these things. So this is barrels of wet sand, 50 kilos in each one of these, and I think there's some on the other side of the workshop which are 25 kilos. And what we do is we ballast the vehicle and put these in various different places to see how the suspension copes with that weight. And if you turn around, you can actually see how it's actually coping here. But having said that, I'm pretty sure they haven't got any in the front. So it does look a little bit weird at the moment, but you can see the rear is squatted down because it's got all that weight in the rear. And if I look in there, there is 50, so it's 200 kilos of wet sand in the rear to kind of see whether or not the suspension can cope with that amount of weight in the rear. And I would say probably not a good idea at the moment unless we upgrade it. But I think they put too much in the back there, so the conclusion probably from this test will be, nope, can't put that much in the back, so we'll probably take one of those and put it in the front and then see where we go from there. But if you come around the back, the interesting bit is in the back that we've been up to. So what we've got in the back already is our new VW Beetle bolting cradle mount for a small Tesla drive unit. And the way it works is obviously you've got your small Tesla drive unit here, and this cradle bolts into the original frame horns, which are two bits of like chassis that come out this way. The gearbox kind of like mounts to here, and then also a front gearbox mount as well. So it kind of bolts onto the frame horns here, goes underneath, bolts to the gearbox mount, and then goes up and around and bolts onto the top of the shock mount, which is also part of the chassis. So a really nice, fairly generic bolting conversion kit for a VW Beetle. And we're just testing it on an oval. We're testing on a 70s Beetle and a 1968 Beetle at the moment, just to see if it's all going to work on different versions of Beetles, because Beetles, just like all cars, changed over the years, and this was in production, well, from the early 1950s, although yes, there were ones built in the 1940s, right the way up to, well, they were built into the 90s really, and probably beyond in South American countries like Brazil and Mexico. So over the years, it's fair to say, the Beetle changed a little bit. So there we go. This is the oval Beetle, and yeah, we'll definitely do an episode on this one.
We need to do an episode on the kit.
The kit, yes, do an episode on the kit, because the people love watching the kit episodes. So yeah, once this is ready, we'll drop it all out and do a full-on VW Beetle kit episode for you guys. Right, next, let's stick with Germans. Let's go. Right, Mercedes 190 SL. Look at the lines on it. If I get out of the way, look at the lines of that. It's just a beautiful, beautiful car. This is a long-term project. We take on probably one of these per year, and this has gone for full restoration. So it's just about finished that process here now. The boot floor is just getting finished off, but look at the axle in there. There's a really weird axle, rear axle on this. It's kind of a semi like solid rear axle. I'm not sure what the name is. People out there, comments below. What's the name of this axle? Because I don't think I've seen any of these before. But it's given us a little bit of a headache because that means that we have to reuse this rear axle and that prop and put the motor up front. And that's what the guys are busy with at the moment. So the motor in this we're mounting at the front, and there's a gear reduction unit mounted to it as well, so that's going directly onto the prop. But because of the way it's kind of, you know, designed, there's no UV joint in the prop, so it's like solid all the way, which means that we have to keep the same angle for the motor and the gearbox to match up to the prop. There's only like a rubber cup between them, if you like, which, you know, makes it a little bit interesting for mounting. And that's what's going on here now. We're just kind of like positioning the motor now to be able to get the mounts right, and at the same time the mounts then need to come off the front the rear is fine, because that's going to pick off the gearbox mounts down there that I can see. But the front is the bit that's then got to kind of come out a little bit and mount to the original engine mounts, which are quite far forward compared to where the start of the motor is. But I did have a chat with the lads before I went away, and the plan is to make a mount that goes off the engine mounts that not only mounts the motor, but also then provides the base for which then the battery box goes onto. And as you can see in the background, there is the inverter, which is a little bit big in my mind. I'm not that happy about this motor and inverter setup, because the inverter is massive. But that's where we're up to on the 190 SL, and time to go back to a little bit of Italian with the next car. Now, Maserati Ghibli. This has been with us for some time, and it's coming to that my favourite part of the process, which is the final build. There's a box of powder-coated stuff next to Tim's legs here, and I can see it's all starting to go in now. The high voltage is done, the coolant's done, the low voltage is getting finished, let's say, and the guys have the battery boxes around some, and they've just been powder coated, I've seen. There's one over there. So the cradles are all done to hold the battery boxes in, and the guys have even started doing things like a little bit of a wood floor here, which is the new boot floor that'll be going around the battery box. So this, hopefully, fingers crossed, should be going soon. Although it doesn't look like it if you go to the front, because we've had a little bit of an error with the motor. And there's the awesome bit of machining there. I mean, look at that. This is the adapter plate and coupler. So essentially this, look at that. That's a big one. So there we go. That's the adapter plate for the Maserati. That bolts onto the motor. and then this bit bolts onto the original gearbox of the car. And the reason why it's in my hand and not in the car is because the motor decided to have a little bit of a problem, which was the encoder bearing spun, or possibly might have been put on like that at the factory. We don't know, because we haven't really gone anywhere in the car yet. So that's, in fact, why don't you show it? It'll be a little bit interesting. Now, here is, or was, the Maserati Ghibli motor. And it was all in, everything was working lovely, hunky-dory, until we had a problem. So just to explain what these are. So this is a net gain Hyper 9 motor, and so is this, but this is the dual shaft version, which enables us to actually put two of them in line via this Siamese plate here. So this essentially bolts onto there, and then this motor bolts onto there, and via this coupler, everything then works in tandem. The problem was this encoder. An encoder is essentially something, it's like a positioning sensor, if you like. It tells the controller what position the motor is in, and the wires inside there, you'll have to get a close-up in a minute, Tim, but the wires in there have essentially just been pinched against the bearing, and it was creating a kind of one of those annoying faults that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. An intermittent fault, the worst fault in the world. And it took us ages to figure it out, but we stripped it all apart, and then we saw that straight away. We thought, okay, what's happened is this motor, or this bearing, has essentially spun in its housing, and it's crushed those wires. So we're just waiting on a replacement encoder bearing now, and then all of this will then go back together, and it'll go in the car. But to be fair to Netgain, this is the first problem we've ever had with a Hyper 9, and we've been using them for a long time, and we get around about, I don't know, 10 every other month into the workshop. So we've gone through a lot of motors, and this is the first ever problem we've ever had. So, this isn't a negative on these motors whatsoever. They're very, very reliable, very good motors. So there we go. That's why the Maserati is looking the way it does. So back over to the Maserati. Now in here is where those dual Hyper 9 motors are going to live once they're back together. And then once the motors are in, then the battery box goes on top, and then the guys can finish off the low voltage loom, which is currently dangling down underneath the car over there, looking all complicated. So in the UK, the DVLA, which is the Driver's Vehicle Licensing Authority, but basically the authority that manages existing vehicles on the road, has an 8-point system for modified vehicles or radically altered vehicles. The main headline there is that we can't weld to or modify the chassis or the monocoque of the vehicle, which is why you'll see all of our conversions are bolt in, and this is no different. So in here what we have is a cradle that holds the motors in place and then actually just mounts onto the existing engine mounts. So if I can call for my glamorous assistant Tim to come over and help me get this cradle out, I can lay it on the floor and people can see. So here's the cradle on the ground. So imagine two Hyper 9s in there, one clamped in there. You've got the Siamese plate bolted in place there, and then the other there, and then it's also then bolted to the actual bell housing on the gearbox there. And then here's your two engine mounts then on the vehicle, one there and one there. So it's all just sitting into the existing infrastructure of the car to abide by the rules for the DVLA. But more importantly than that, to be respectful to the actual classic car itself, because what you don't want to be doing, cutting up an icon like this and welding and drilling holes into a vehicle, which is just a piece of motoring history, quite frankly. So all our conversions are completely reversible if necessary. But one conversion which isn't going to be reversible is the next one. It's my favourite car in the workshop, my race car. So here you go. Here's my race car project. And anybody who wants to find out more on this, we're doing a whole build series on this. So I'm not going to delve into detail on this, but anybody who wants to find out more details, go and search out the series that we're covering on it on our YouTube channel. But just in short, front motor, rear motor out of a Tesla Performance P100D Tesla Model S. Massive brakes on the front. steering system was a problem, battery packs either side, battery pack there, brakes on the rear, and most importantly, it's going to be a Beetle shell on top. So it's going to look like a VW Beetle, but it's going to go like a scalded cat. So I think that's enough on this, otherwise we're never going to get around the workshop. So as I say, you want to find out more, search out the series on our YouTube channel. Right, an update on the VW Synchro project now. As you can see, there's an adapter plate behind me with no motor on, because unfortunately we've got a problem with the motor, so the motors have to come out, which is just one of those things that we have to deal with. But what I'm going to update you on here now is a solution we've come up with for the 240 volts AC onboard system, because this vehicle is going to do some overlanding and they want to be able to live off-grid for some time. That means cooking needs to also be off-grid, and they want it to be electric, not gas. So we've got electric fridge, we've got induction hobs, there's just one here, there's two on the vehicle, and other bits and pieces that are running off 240 volts on the vehicle need to find a power source. Conventional way of doing that is turning 12 volt into 240 volts, and the way you do that on an electric vehicle is you have a DC to DC converter, which takes your 400 volt DC down to 12 volt DC. So, and because we're talking about a lot of amps here, I mean, just the induction hobs alone are 2.4 kilowatt peak. That means you've got to have more than just one DC to DC running in parallel to juice up a 12 volt DC battery. In fact, you probably need about 2, if not 3 of these on the vehicle. And that's a lot of weight. I couldn't even pick this up myself. So DC to DC converters in parallel, running 2 or 3 of these in the vehicle, and then that's just got 12 volts now, but now we need to up that to 240 volts AC, and for that you need one of these, which is an inverter. So this thing here, again, quite some weight, converts it up to 240 volts AC. And all this pile of cable here, you have to actually live with as well, because whenever you're going 12 volts, you're going down in voltage, that means your amps are going to have to go up to compensate, and that means your cable is going to get huge, which is, this is 90 mil cable. So that's a fair old chunky, weighty solution to get from a 400 volt DC down to 12 volt DC, back up to 240 volt AC. And all that has now gone away because we found this little beauty. So this is a 400 volt DC to 240 volt AC inverter or converter. Comments below. Inverter or converter? All you tech heads out there, what's the correct terminology for this? So this, as I say, takes the 400 volt pack voltage DC and provides 240 volts AC, and this essentially is the same unit that's used in a Rivian. So if you've ever seen that Rivian 4x4 pickup truck, and they pull out that like kitchenette camping sort of like solution out of there, like, you know, the middle of the vehicle, it's got 2 induction hobs on. Whenever I saw that, I thought, how are they doing that? And this is how they're doing it. They've got 3 of these in parallel, because I think these are 1.5 kilowatts each. So we've got 3 of these in parallel to be able to, you know, provide the kilowatts to be able to run that whole kitchen system. So we're going to run 2 of these in parallel, and that's our solution to get rid of all this complexity and weight, which is a nice little solution, isn't it? Right, that's enough on the VW Synchro. Next vehicle. Right, we're going to skip over these next 2 because it's another Fiat 500. 99% finished. We're just swapping this out for a new charger that we're trying, and then this will be done. It actually was working, and if I plug these things back in, it probably still will work. But yeah, this is another Fiat 500 we've done, and in the background here you can probably see lots and lots of battery packs getting made up as well, so always busy building up lots of battery packs. Another Fiat 500 over there. Another Fiat 500, it's got its little charge socket already there, and that's obviously where the horn normally goes, that big hole there, so we've repurposed that now for the charge socket. And no battery pack in the front yet, but if you follow me around the rear, the guys have been busy around the rear here, so in here we now have the motors in place. So we've got the motor in underneath there, DC to DC converters in, the main mounting plates are in now and bolted in, and they've started to put all the high voltage and all the cable management that goes with the high voltage and the low voltage in place. And by the looks of it, all this is waiting for now is the rear battery box to go in. So they put a bit of tape down ready to just slide that in, and out the corner of my eye, there is the battery pack over there. So that battery pack over there will just slide in place, connect it all up, and then you've got your high voltage junction box here and the controller to go in. So I'd probably say 1 more week and we'll be driving this under the power of electrons. Another Tesla powered Defender here. This is actually built using our conversion kit by a company over in Ireland called Ava. Just borrowed it for a bit of YouTubing that we did on it a few weeks back. So this is going to go pretty shortly because this is a driving finished vehicle. Really nice interior in this. But again, if you want to see more details on this, find the video in our YouTube library. And next to it is the another Ferrari Testarossa. This is, in fact, where the guys are busy with the airbox in this. Let me just show you how complicated a Ferrari Testarossa airbox is. So here is an airbox out of a Ferrari Testarossa, and it's quite a complicated beast. So what you've got in here is 2 squirrel cage fans. There they are in there. And we've had to find a home for the aircon in here. So that'll be your cool air coming through there. And also looks like Neil is busy with the heater elements here. So that's your heating. I think he's probably, by the looks of it, going to try and slot it in down here somewhere. So again, usual challenges we have to deal with in most cars is find homes for things that never had those things in it to start with. So aircon heating elements are going to be going in there. We'll put this back and break it. Here we go. Right, on with the tour. Now I've saved the best to last, a Porsche 356B. Beautiful car, stunning colour as well. I think it's slate grey, but correct me if I'm wrong. 1961 car. I'm not sure if this exact 356 we're going to convert or another one for a customer. The customer's got to make up his mind and he's coming to actually have a look at this and another one that's arriving soon, and then he'll decide which one he's going to get converted. But I hope it's this one because this is stunning. I mean, it's just lovely. It's got a red leather interior. It's currently driving really nice as well, which is a good sign it's been looked after. Looked underneath, it's clean as a whistle underneath as well. So again, this is going to be a complete bolt-in conversion, very similar to a VW Beetle conversion, but also the car itself, really. It's got a 1600 Super engine in the back. So yeah, I'm going to open that up because you've got to see the rear as well. Let me just do that for you. Ah, the smell of nostalgia. This is essentially a Beetle engine, but obviously twin carbs. It's got twin Solixes, I think. It's the 1600 Super. I think the plan with this is going to be, we'll have the motor down in there, obviously, but then we'll probably put a rear battery pack in here rather than how we do it in the Beetle, which is behind the back seat, because I want to keep the interior completely stock. Plus, there'll be loads of room in here once this motor comes out for some batteries. So that's the plan in this, and I really do hope the customer picks this one because it's a stunner. There you go. I hope you enjoyed this workshop walk around video. It was 15 cars in total, and I'm interested to know, comments below, which one was your favourite? And on that note, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.